Welcome, selectors, to Weekly Wharf Wixoss. We have another exciting match for you today. Aiyai Showdown and her stealthy Terra Beasts versus tax collector Mew Blossom. Will Mew be able to shut down the Terra Beast farm, or will Aiyai pillage her coffers? Find out coming up next on Weekly Wharf Wixoss. Welcome to the Gamers Wharf in Grandville, Michigan. Here our selectors will do battle to determine this week's winner of Weekly Wharf Wixoss. Let's first take a look at the challenger on the blue side. Mew Blossom is a defensive Elrig who uses her own opponent's trash as charms. These charms, along with her Rezona Craft Signi and her ability to block a lane, make her a very dangerous center Elrig to deal with. Her pieces are Ultra Superheroes for card selection, vanish, and mill, and Super Halesta Saber to get cards back from the trash. Her assists let her get back guards, bounce Signi, and reduce her opponent's limit with Sash, and enter charging and up to 3 vanish effects with Hanayo. Now let's take a look at their opponent on the red side. Aiyai Showdown is an elusive Elrig, capable of manipulating her enter in various ways. Coupled with her ability to use Rezona Craft Signi, she can attack you in a myriad of ways. Her pieces are Death Beam Diva that can enter burn, draw cards, and grant Lancer to a Signi, and Countdown Heals to get back up to 3 Terra Beasts from trash. Her assists offer her card draw, vanish, and enter burn with X, and 2 instances of vanish in trashed card pickup with Machina. Before we begin, a few things to note. These are casual events played at our weekly event. Any mistakes are corrected if caught. We welcome any ruling concerns, clarifications, or corrections. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this in the future. With that being said, we hope you enjoy this week's edition of Weekly Wharf Wixoss. Our selectors look to be ready. The Elrigs are raring to go. The stock crowd noise is cheering. Let's get ready to battle! Blue won the dice roll and will go first. Leading off, Blue enter charges and then grows to level 1, and then drops down 2 Alpha Memorias. A very good early mill card that forces their opponent to mill cards based on the Signi they have played. Over to the red side, we enter charge and grow. Immediately going to their first assist, X Echo, discarding a buffa to draw 3 cards. The second assist comes down to vanish one of the Alphos and pick up the buffa that was discarded. A Barbarian Jade General comes down without Lancer, and the buffa is played. This will get plus 1k for each level of each Elrig on their field, so plus 3k. Moving to the attack phase, Alpha will make red discard 2 cards, once for each Signi. We have our first damage coming through. It is a burst, but there's nothing in the trash. The next attack comes through, and it is not a burst. Finally, Aiyai swings. Do we have a guard? We do. Red then discards down to hand size and passes the turn, having done 2 damage. Blue then decides not to enter charge and grows to level 2. Mew gets to choose between 2 of her Rezona Craft Signi, which you show your opponent. Blue then chooses their favorite one and adds it to their Elrig deck. Remember to reveal it to your opponent at the end of the game. Next, Blue plays a Remail to vanish the Barbarian Jade General in the center, and plays a Maho Maho Desona in the top lane, which when it attacks, mills 2. After which, uses Hanayo Sakura to vanish the buffa in the top lane and enter charge 1. Moving on to the attack phase, we start in the top lane with Maho Maho attacking and milling 2. And the damage is no burst. Next, Alpha attacks, and we got another non-burst. Rounding out the Signi, Remail attacks. Looks like we have a burst. It is a vanish 8k or less, which hits the Alpha. Finally, Mew attacks, and we have a guard to block that. Mew ends her turn, having caused 3 damage. No enter charge for Aiyai and grows to level 2. Like before, Aiyai passes her 2 Rezona Craft Signi over to Blue. Take a look. then we'll choose one of their favorites and add it to their Elrig deck. After picking, Oigana is played, discarding a black card to -3k something, hitting the Maho in the top lane. Next we have a Barbarian Jade General in the center, giving it Lancer. And finally an Akafuku in the bottom lane, just a vanilla 10k. Moving to the attack phase, Oigana strikes first, revealing a burst. It is a servant, getting a card back from the trash. Next we have an attack from the Akafuku, revealing got a burst. It's minus an 8k, hitting the Barbarian Jade General. Rounding it out, we have Aiyai attacking. Do we have a guard? We do. Red sneaks through 2 damage on this attack phase, leading the Lifecloth battle 4-3. The turn passes back over to blue, who enter charges and then grows to level 3. Now that Mew's level 3, we should hope to see some of these taxing effects that she's known for. At level 3, Mew can take cards from her opponent's trash and attach them to Signi on the field to give them -3k, and also trigger other effects. These are called charms. Next we see Sash growing to level 1. This will return a guard from trash to hand. With this many guards, Red's only going to have to rely on their Signi damage to win this game. A servant is picked up and placed back into hand. Now we have the first piece of the game, Ultra Superheroes. As there's a white, a black, and a red Elrig on the field, all 3 parts will trigger. Starting with the first effect, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose 2 of them, put them into your hand, and put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. You do not have to reveal these cards. The next effect triggers because of a red Elrig. Vanish a 12k or less, which will target the Akafuku. Finally, the last effect triggers, milling 10 cards from the top of the deck. Looks like no servants were milled here, so that is good for the red player. But that deck is looking pretty thin. The goal is to get at least 1 refresh damage from your milling. Next, Mew will take a card from the trash and attach it to the Oigana, which is a servant. This card is placed face down. This is a charm, and by Mew's effect, any Signi with a charm on it gets -3k, so the Oigana is vanished. Now we have Mew's once per game being played, which will block Red's bottom lane unless they pay 5. Mew then plays herself in the top lane, and will get back a level 1 from trash. There is a misplay here. This was not paid for. Neither player caught it, so we have to let it go. The Maho has been played in the bottom lane. Remiles then trash to make for a slightly bigger body with a Lancelot of 5k. We are moving to the attack phase. Red plays X Crossfire to vanish the Maho, very worried about the mill effects from Maho, trying to avoid getting that mill damage. The second part of the effect will burn 2 enter that does not share a color with the center. Moving on to the attacks. Mew strikes first, no burst. Lancelot then attacks. It is a Akafuku, which is enter charge 1 and then prevent all Signi damage of this turn, which is not going to do anything. And the attack from Mew is blocked by a servant. Blue managed to sneak 2 damage through, and it's back over to red. Red then enter charges and grows to level 3. When Aiyai enters, she grabs a Signi from the enter zone, which is a Buffa. After adding that Signi to hand, Aiyai's once per turn activates, enter charging 1. Red then plays Thoroughbred, paying the enter cost, putting a Terra Beast from the trash onto the field and giving it plus 4k until end of turn. The chosen Signi is Meerkat, who has an enter burn effect and also buffs other Terra Beasts. Next, red plays their first piece of the game, Deathbeam Diva. Only the red and green effects will trigger, as there's no blue Elrig. For their first effect, blue has to trash all their enter. For the second effect, Thoroughbred gets Lancer. Moving on to the attack phase, Thoroughbred gives the entire field plus 3k, and then Meerkat gives plus 2k for each Terra Beast on the field to Thoroughbred. The ending state is Thoroughbred at 19k with Lancer and Meerkat at 12k. adjusting the dice to properly show each buff. The first attack comes through and vanishes the Lancelot. The second attack comes through with Lancer, vanishing the Mew and hitting not a burst. Next, Aiyai swings and runs straight into a guard. As Red's total power on board is above 30k, Thoroughbred's effect triggers, drawing a card. Only 1 damage broke through there, evening up the score at 2 life cloth each. Not being able to get an attack in on that open lane is pretty rough. The turn passes back over to Blue, who draws up. This would be a pretty good turn for Blue to start pressing their advantage. A full board clear would guarantee at least 1 to 2 damage. Blue enter charges for a turn. Blue then grows Sash to level 2, reducing their opponent's limit by 2 and bouncing a level 2 or less Signi back to hand. Next, Blue plays Super Halessa Saber, their second piece. This gets back a black, a white, and a colorless Signi from the trash. Their choices are a Maho Maho, an Exia, and a Servant. The Maho Maho's back in the bottom lane. Mew then places a Servant as a charm on the Thoroughbred, reducing her from a 12k to a 9k. King Clad then comes down, the Resona Craft Signi, giving an additional minus 10k to the Thoroughbred, vanishing it. Blue has their board clear, and now we have an Exia in the center. Now we are moving to the attack phase. Blue has no triggers, so it's over to Red. Machina comes down to vanish the Maho Maho, really preventing that mill from happening. A great play considering how little cards Red has left. Exia starts the attack off, revealing a burst, which is a Servant, getting back a Buffalo to hand. Next, King Clad attacks, revealing another burst. This is vanished to 7k or more, so the Exia is now vanished. Finally, Mew attacks for lethal, but is guarded by a Servant. Aiyai lives for another day, but will it be enough? Red will need to do 3 damage through both having a limit of 6 and through 1 assist. The Buffalo that was picked up will be a key part of this comeback here. Whenever it or another Terra Beast enters the battlefield, they both get plus 4k. Next, a Chimera comes down, putting 2 Terra Beasts underneath it. Each Terra Beast underneath Chimera can be traded in for a plus 3k or Lancer to a target Signi. Buffalo's other effect gives all Signi on the field with 20k power or more the ability to pay 2 to vanish a 12k or less. Trigger. Buffalo triggers, adding 4k to both Signi. 1 Terra Beast is removed to give Buffalo plus 3k. The second Terra Beast is removed to give Buffalo yet another plus 3k. Chimeras in trash to make room for other Signi. And 2 Buffa get played, triggering Buffalo, adding 4k to both. These will get plus 7k for Buffalo being on the field, plus an additional 7k for the total Elrig level being 7. Buffalo then gets 2 more 4k buffs for both Buffas entering. The final total is the 2 Buffas at 21k and Buffalo at 30k. Aiyai then uses her once per game to swap positions with a Signi that vanishes an enemy Signi. Suddenly we have a very large board. The center Buffa attacks. And we have a burst, getting back a Signi from trash to the hand or on the field. The Exia comes back to block the bottom Buffa. The bottom Buffa then clears the Exia. Now the Buffalo attacks, vanishing the King Clad in front of it before the attack goes through. The King Clad is removed from the game, and a black Signi from the trash can be added back to hand. The board save built here by Red is crazy for only having a limit of 6, having multiple 20k plus Signi on the field. Terra Beast sure can be scary. Maho Maho is once again returned from trash back to hand. Damage is coming through and is not a burst. Blue is wide open to lethal. Do they have a Servant? Yes, they do, and Blue somehow survives the Terra Beast onslaught from Red. The critical and Mirage burst to put a Signi in front of the bottom Buffa, getting back the Exia, was a crucial play there to survive. Blue plays Hanyo Pomegranate to clear one of the Buffas. As they are currently 10k right now, the second effect will do nothing. Blue plays a Maho Maho in the bottom lane for what feels like the 50th time, an Andromeda in the center lane, and a Pantomime in the top lane. Blue then attaches a Charm to the Buffalo, giving it minus 3k, bringing it down to a 9k. And with nothing else to do, moving to attack phase, Blue swings with Andromeda in the center for game. GG. What an amazing finish to an amazing game. Aiyai and the Terra Beast put up a great fight, especially on that very final turn, making a board of a 30k and two 21ks. But in the end, Mew and her taxes were just too much for the Terra Beast farm to endure. Looking at the scoreboard, the bursts were an even 4 each, with Red's burst being backloaded in the end and Blue's being spread out throughout the game. We hope you enjoyed this presentation of Weekly Wharf Wixoss. Make sure to comment below on your favorite part of this game. We hope to catch you on the next edition of Weekly Wharf Wixoss.